Warning. The topics discussed on this podcast are subject to adult themes and languages. We seek to unravel the unexplained and unknown. This is Encounters.
Hi everyone and welcome to Encounters. My name's Dakota.
I'm Amanda.
And today we have a Encounters news flash where we'll be covering the Navy whistleblowers and the unidentified UAPs.
Ooh, yes. This is going to be exciting.
You don't sound very excited.
I'm excited. No, Dakota hit me up a couple weeks ago and he was like, "Did you fucking hear what's going on?" I was like, "No, what's happening?"
And then I took some time to actually find out what was going on, and I was like, this seems shady.
Right. He's like, "We need to make an episode about this." So here we are, and I'm excited.
With a super secret bonus episode in between our current episodes. And that's not to say anything. We'll be back with our mistress of conspiracies, Natalie, talking about the Denver airport conspiracy. But in the meantime, we thought we'd hop on and call y'all's attention to this congressional hearing that happened on June 8th, 2023, where we had 3 retired or non-active duty Navy personnel or other, because I'm not technically sure what Mr. Roosh was.
Yeah, he's a former combat officer and an intelligence official.
But we had 3 military veterans testifying in Congress about the possibility of confirmed UFO activity, or as they're calling them, UAPs.
Yes. They're trying to get the Biden administration to release more information on it because they're saying things have been happening since like the 1930s and the American people need to know. And these whistleblowers came forward to share what they've seen. And it was some intense stuff. Oh my goodness.
And if you're interested yourself, you can absolutely jump on YouTube and see hours and hours of the footage that is available to the public with these mind-numbing hearings.
Yes.
But I was able to watch some of that and then catch some really fun highlight reels of what the hell was happening on Capitol Hill on June 8th, 2023. Yeah. So before we get into this, of course, the United States government is no stranger to having UFO, UAP, extraterrestrial studies. We know about the declassified Project Blue Book. We also know that there are plenty of other conspiracies about the government having secret programs to study the night sky and worlds beyond. But we've also had recently a lot of videos come forward of other pilots flying and seeing what appear to be unidentified flying objects, or, again, as we're saying, the new reference, UAPs, which is unidentified aerial phenomenons versus unidentified flying objects. It's used to describe unexplainable sights, whereas unidentified flying objects are commonly mistaken for alien spacecraft. So it's kind of new terminology to move it away from what people are worried about with UFO, what is it? Like baggage. I don't know. The baggage of saying UFO.
Oh, right. Oh, I could see like the stigma that comes along with it.
But it really seems centered around trying to push for information about things in our atmosphere that are unknown. Specifically, this congressional hearing starts off speaking about the Chinese balloon that was found in our airspace earlier this decade. I don't know. When was that? 2022?
Yes, I think 2022.
So that has really pushed forward this idea of what does the United States military know about unidentified objects in our atmosphere, unidentified aerial phenomenons in our atmosphere, and what are they really not telling us? And It's hilarious to me, some of the commentary that happens throughout this congressional meeting. One of the senators asks if the United States military would be keeping secret information from not only the Senate, but the Congress and the American people. And I believe it's Mr. Graves that leans forward and is like, yeah, no, they're definitely doing that. And I'm just like, ma'am, what made you think that they were just going to offer this information up to you? But, I mean, they are declassifying documents and making more information known. That's what we have seen in this ever-growing future that is United States militarized airspace.
Yeah, but not even just like the airspace here, but even space. Like, I know Trump was already starting it with his Space Force. I don't know how far that really went, but it seems like things are even going outside of just the air. We can see.
That's something that's really hard for me too, because I do understand. I've seen Space Force on, I think it's Netflix or Hulu with Steve Carell, and the idea is hilarious, but also if there are worlds beyond, I feel like, wouldn't you want something that eventually becomes the Star Trek Enterprise? Wouldn't you want something that leads to, I don't know, maybe you don't. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe American military doesn't need to be colonizing space. I don't know. I've got the fuzzies in my ears again. But
right. Well, and even what you're mentioning with like the declassification, it makes me think of when we did our Men in Black episode, how information was coming out about the American government infiltrating those kind of spaces too.
What kind of spaces?
Do you remember that? Like they would go to like UFO conferences and see what people were talking about with like Men in Black and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, no. Covert operations to kind of study. Because I mean, there's plenty of people that have reported on studying UFO activity, studying unidentified aerial phenomenons, and having their complete houses ransacked for the entire information by quote unquote the feds, or quote unquote men dressed in all black with looking like government officials, or just fucking being robbed.
Totally. So it's interesting, the more and more we're seeing this stuff come out, because now people are finally saying, hey, the U.S. government has, what is it? I'm sorry, I'm so used to UFOs. UAPs.
Information on UAPs, yeah.
Yeah. And these, like Dakota mentioned at the beginning of this episode, like these are all also like former military men who have either direct knowledge or indirect knowledge about this stuff happening.
Oh, I think it's important to note really quickly, since we're talking about UAPs, A seemingly is interchangeable for aerial, but also refers to anomalous. So, there's that for you. Unidentified anomalous phenomenon, because it means they could be in water or they could be in the air. But most of the things that I'm seeing specifically refer to it as unidentified aerial phenomena. But just have that tidbit of information, because I'm not about to leave y'all without all the information.
Yes, thank you. I just learned something, so thank you, Dakota.
You're welcome. But honestly, it is a 3-hour long kind of toting of intellectualism on, does the United States military have information on extraterrestrials? And they refuse to refer to them as extraterrestrials. What they refer to them as is non-human. Even in some of the contexts where they're asking if there has been anything recovered from crashes, I believe Grush states that he doesn't want to talk about it. They can't talk about it in a public setting. They could possibly talk about it in closed-door settings, but they couldn't really describe anything. And then one of the senators was like, well, then you can't answer any of my other questions. Like, did you recover any bodies? And he pops off by being like, I cannot say that we recovered any biologics that were human. And they were like, so you believe you recovered non-human biologics? And they were like, yes.
Mr. Gresh, finally, do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs? Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
And where?
I know the exact locations, and those locations were provided to the Inspector General, and some of which to the intelligence committees. I actually had the people with the firsthand knowledge provide a protected disclosure to the Inspector General.
Intelligent extraterrestrials.
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
Okay, I can't ask when you think this occurred. If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
But Amanda has a whole thing on that. We were talking about that earlier on the phone. Do you want to talk about that here?
Yeah, so I actually was watching Neil deGrasse Tyson talk about that particular part where, Grush talked about the non-human biologics, and he was saying, well, anything that is not human is going to be a non-human biologic. So that could be like any kind of animal would also be considered a non-human biologic. Like literally.
Cyborg, robotic.
Anything, yes. Exactly.
Which is really interesting when they refuse to label it as extraterrestrial. Which, I mean, honestly, with some of the alien conspiracies we have really prevalent, some of the creatures may already be here, making them terrestrial beings, not extraterrestrial. Like, for one, the reptilians.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I'm going to say on that, so we can move her on. We don't have to talk about the reptilians.
I mean, if we're going to take a quick second to talk about a little bit of the conspiracies we've been hearing along with this news coming out, I've also been seeing that they're using this as like a distraction, and that there's something going to be like another like a Phoenix Lights where we're all going to be distracted with all this alien stuff and other things will be happening.
I mean, there's
knows?
lots of things in the works right now in the world. It would not surprise me if they were like, look at all these shiny lights. I'm not gonna lie, one night driving home, I saw one of the giant Tesla satellites or Starlinks light up, and I thought the fucking Starship Enterprise was coming to abduct me. I'm not gonna lie. I raced home as fast as I fucking could, and then when it disappeared, I was like, oh my god, they didn't get me. And then my mom was like, that's Starlink. And I was like, oh. Well, that was terrifying, and I don't want to have that. So I already know how I would react if aliens fucking landed down.
Right, totally. Oh, yeah, I would not be messing with no aliens. No, thank you. I mean, I can't lie. I have enjoyed all the memes that have come from all of this. It has been quite entertaining.
I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't go talk to the aliens. I'm just saying that, like, if they aggressively tried to touch down in my state of Oklahoma, I don't know if I would be the most like, yay! I would run. I probably would run.
Oh, I definitely would run. For sure. And that's the thing about some of the testimony that came out of Grush. He was not only scared for like himself and his safety by testifying, as Dakota just mentioned, he didn't want to give a whole lot of information away. He also talked about like not only these extraterrestrials like harming people, but also like the U.S. government harming people in order to keep this secret.
Yes, absolutely.
Which
most of the time, he was
was
deflecting lawmakers and saying that he could only elaborate in what they call SIF, or a sensitive compartmented information facility. So basically behind closed doors, private, and definitely alluded to people being murdered to cover up information on extraterrestrial technology.
And implying U.S. government did it, not even just the extraterrestrials did it.
At one point, you had said that there has been harmful activity or aggressive activity. Has any of the activity been aggressive, been hostile in your reports?
I know of multiple colleagues of mine that got physically injured. And the activity, and I got
By UAPs or by people within the federal government?
both.
Okay, so there has been activity by alien or non-human technology and or beings that has caused harm to humans.
I can't get into the specifics in an open environment, but at least the activity that I personally witnessed, and I have to be very careful here because they tell you never to acknowledge tradecraft, right? So what I personally witnessed myself and my wife was very disturbing.
Yeah.
Which was really freaky. Wow. Okay, wow. We can all have been this.
Grush was probably the biggest portion of the whistleblowers coming forward for UFOologists, because not only did he confirm that the United States government has potentially had active involvement since the 1930s, which, quote unquote, this fits into our Roswell, this fits into Betty and Barney Hill, this fits into Project Blue Book, this fits into Blackwood Monster, or the Flatwoods Monster. This fits in with a lot of our major hype from the 1930s, 40s, and 50s that leads into UFO mania that dies down and becomes satanic panic, only to be revitalized now. And with both. And Grush really hits it on the nail, kind of giving us everything we would want confirmed, but it's also kind of handed over so easily. I mean, that it is a whistleblower situation, so he is actively coming forward with the information, but the way the lawmakers are kind of making questions and trying to dive, it really looks fictionalized and kind of like you would expect to see it on an episode of Law and Order or The West Wing.
Yeah. And I will also throw this in. From what I saw, a lot of his testimony also was not first person, right? It was
things that people he knows have seen, things in the department. He did say he was willing to give up names and departments and places to go, but he can only do it behind closed doors in a sensitive environment where a secret could be kept, basically.
If you were me, where would you look? Titles, programs, departments?
I'd be happy to give you that in a closed environment. I can tell you specifically.
And I would say, and I've told people that you have to know where to look. They're not going to divulge it to you because of the classification levels. But if you know where to look and who to talk to, which is exactly what Mr. Grush can point you, then you have them.
Right. And he was saying a lot of them were still in the program.
Right.
Yeah, so that's another really good reason to keep it secret. But he was saying it was like over 40 witnesses or something. Like, it was a lot of people. So that's also big, even though it's not his experience.
I mean, he actively also said that he and his colleagues have been the targets of administrative terrorism, quote unquote, and that he's feared for his life since coming forward, which is valid. I mean, he obviously believes that whoever is trying to cover up this information will kill him, and they might.
And it seems like other people he knows personally have been harmed by somebody or something.
Correct.
So, yeah, I mean, that gives that a lot of credibility. I think we're going to try to throw some clips in.
No, feel free to just drop them in anywhere, especially with him, because we got Graves and Fravor up next. Which one did you like better? Which one do you want to talk about?
Favor, I think we saw his video. We have, pretty sure we did a reaction to that one.
With the Tic Tac.
The alien video? Yes. So I thought that was kind of interesting because me and you personally have actually seen it. And I remember us reacting to it in the video, and we were both pretty shocked by it. It was moving really quickly.
It moved all around in these weird figures. I mean, Favor describes being flabbergasted when he and 3 other service members saw what they called a white Tic Tac shaped flying object over San Diego on the coast of California. He said, quote, "There were no rotors, no rotor wash, or any visible flight control surfaces like wings. It rapidly accelerated and disappeared right in front of our aircraft, leaving no detectable turbulence."
As we looked around, we noticed that we saw some whitewater off our right side. It's important to note that the weather on this day was as close to perfect as you could ask for off the coast of San Diego. Clear skies, light winds, calm seas, no whitecaps from waves. So the whitewater stood out in a large blue ocean. All four of us, because we were in F-18Fs, so we had pilots and Wizzo in the back seat, looked down saw a white tic-tac object with a longitudinal axis pointing north-south and moving very abruptly over the water like a ping-pong ball. There were no rotors, no rotor wash, or any sign of visible control surfaces like wings. As we started clockwise towards the object, my Wizzo and I decided to go down and take a closer look with the other aircraft staying in high cover to observe both us and the tic-tac. We proceeded around the circle about 90 degrees from the start of our descent, and the object suddenly shifted its longitudinal axis, aligned it with my aircraft, and began to climb. We continued down another 270 degrees. We went nose low to where the tic-tac would have been. Our altitude at this point was about 15,000 feet, and the tic-tac was about 12,000. As we pulled nose onto the object, within about a half mile of it, it rapidly accelerated in front of us and disappeared. Our wingmen, roughly 8,000 feet above us, lost contact also. We immediately turned back to see where the whitewater was at, and it was gone also. So as we started to turn back towards the east, the controller came up and said, "Sir, you're not going to believe this, but that thing is at your cap point roughly 60 miles away in less than a minute. You can calculate the speed." We arrived at the location at approximately 20,000 feet, and the controller called merge plot, which means that our radar blip was now in the same resolution cell as the contact.
What astonished you the most about the flight capabilities of these Tic-Tac, very briefly?
The performance. Absolute performance. It was...
And you're not aware of any other objects that anybody in the world has, in this world, that has those capabilities?
No, I think it's far beyond actually our material science that we currently possess.
His interview was the most uncomfortable for me because the lawmaker was making jokes. In fact, there was one joke made where the lawmaker was like, "Oh, I had to make sure this is tic-tac like the candy, not tick-tock like the Chinese propaganda ad machine." And I was like, oh my God. Sir, please don't drag your family drama out into this. Go to therapy.
Yeah. Right.
But yes, tic-tac.
It's appealing.
And it did. It looked like a little flying pill. It was very interesting. And then Ryan Graves was a Navy fighter pilot who recounted an incident with a flying object off the coast of Virginia Beach in 2014. While flying an F-18, he came up upon the object that looked like a dark gray or black cube inside a clear sphere. He estimated that it was 5 to 15 feet in diameter, and unlike any aircraft he had seen.
How do you know that these were not our aircraft?
Some of the behaviors that we saw in a working area, we would see these objects being at 0.0 Mach, that's zero airspeed, over certain pieces of the ground. So what that means, just like a river, if you throw a bobber in, it's going to float downstream. These objects were staying completely stationary in Category 4 hurricane winds. These same objects would then accelerate to supersonic speeds, 1.1, 1.2 Mach, and they would do so in very erratic and quick behaviors that I don't have an explanation for.
He then told the lawmakers that he submitted a safety report and received no acknowledgement, and there was no official record ever made of it. And according to the former pilot, UAP encounters in that region were not rare or isolated. A lot of the times, he said they would just end up on somebody's desk and then never get filed.
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
What steps do you think have to be taken to improve a pilot's UAP reporting, be it military or commercial?
Right now, we need a system where pilots can report without fear of losing their jobs. There is a fear that the stigma associated with this topic is going to lead to professional repercussions, either through management or perhaps through their yearly physical check. So having a secure system, reducing the stigma, and making this information available through the public is going to reduce the concerns that aircrew have.
So again, these two men are witnesses to these UAPs and come forward only to have us find out that their information is not being either recorded publicly, I'm not saying this shit ain't somewhere, or that they're not being taken seriously and they're seeing them at a high number and rate. Now, whether these UAPs are extraterrestrial, terrestrial, or non-human biologics. I don't know. But I definitely believe there may be other military aircrafts from other portions of our globe that we see not only hovering or flying. I mean, we saw the Chinese air balloon here. Whether or not that was espionage is questionable, but still an unidentified aerial thing.
Yeah. No, both of their testimonies seemed very plausible. And like Dakota said, we just don't know if it's from outer space or around these parts. Who knows? I know my dad has some experiences being in the military. So who knows what kind of aircrafts and things like that.
I mean, we've got
we all
our
have.
own stealth bomber that can't be predicted. We've got 3 fucking planes that can go up into the air and cover the entire globe with radar. It would not surprise me if we have a flying pill that don't need wings to go 36 degrees from everywhere.
Right.
Some of the biggest things, though, the takeaways that I took from this subcommittee hearing was that only 5% of UAP viewers or experiencers, and this is not alien abduction, this is straight up just I witnessed something in the air flying, only 5% of people come forward. So they believe there are 95% undocumented cases of people seeing these unidentified aerial phenomenons, or anomalous phenomenons. I don't know what I'd do if I'd see this fucking shit in the water. I swear to God.
Shit. No, that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't come forward either. If I saw something in the sky, I would automatically assume it's military or aliens. Like, I'm not saying shit to nobody.
I'm not a snitch. Yeah, no, I see what happens.
Right? Exactly. I'm going to get the Men in Black no matter what. Like, either it's going to be like some FBI agent or some, I don't even know, some alien trying to steal all my papers from the house and wipe my memory.
I am not the main character in this story. Thank you. I have my own story I'm leading.
Thank you, dude. Exactly. It doesn't involve that. No, thank you. No, sir.
Well, Helen, I can't even,
Keep that one.
so the agency that if you do experience a sighting, you're supposed to report it to the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Let me tell you what I am not doing. I mean, I just cannot. But Graves said, I urge us to put aside stigma and address the security and safety issue this topic represents. If UAPs are foreign drones, it's an urgent national security problem. If it is something else, it is an issue for science. In either case, unidentified objects are a concern for flight safety. The American people deserve to know what is happening in our skies. It's long overdue.
Fuck yeah.
And
I agree.
I mean, I agree to a certain extent. I don't think America is technically ready. Honestly, we're ready to know about aliens. I don't think we're ready to know that, there's war machines flying in our zones 24/7.
Fucking right. Those heat ray guns they had that made you feel like you're melting from the inside. I was like, wait, what? We got what? This is terrifying.
Yeah. So, I honestly do think Americans are okay with the idea. I think it's honestly wild if you do not believe in life outside of our known planet.
Oh, hell yeah.
Whether it's intelligent or not, I think to think that there's only life on this planet is very small-minded. I also think it's small-minded to think that aliens want to come to our planet and take our things. I also think some of the conspiracies I've heard are wild. Reptilians. But I do think that this is an interesting starting point in the conversation of where we go from here with the United States military. Because this subcommittee hearing wasn't so much that the government has information so much as it was about the United States military has information that it's not sharing with Congress or the government.
Exactly.
So
that's so true. That is
there's
so
some
true.
weird strings that were being pulled. There's some weird phrases and turn of tongue. Some of the lawmakers that were running the subcommittee definitely used the time to make it about themselves. There was even one guy that was like talking about how it was his 9-year anniversary and his wife says that it's the best 2 years of her life. I was like, ma'am.
Okay. Great.
And these are your lawmakers. But it felt very circusy. It felt very for show, which makes me go, what are you hiding? What are you covering up? This is no longer about aliens because 95% of us ain't telling you about our experiences, obviously. But what are we trying to distract from? What is this circus meant to take away from? Because it was the talk of the town last month or in June. And for the month after that, like, people were still talking about it. Now people are talking about Baldur's Gate 3. So what were we hiding? What were we distracting from? Or are we actually going to get the information? What I know we're not going to do is what the lawmakers think they're going to do, and is storm up to the United States military and be like, give me the information now!
I know. That's definitely not
Best of luck to you.
Fucking right.
But I do believe it's something that the American people are ready for. I think there's a sect of American people that are not ready for that. Specifically, ones that read a very specific book that has a couple of lines on the front of it and goes by Ole Eibel, if you know what I'm saying. I don't know if they're ready for aliens, but the rest of us, rock on.
Yeah, because people were having a lot of fun with it, you know. People didn't freak out and, like, start storming.
Oh, my God.
Shit, maybe I should
don't,
go there.
no, insurrection.
But most people had fun with it. It's opening up conversations. Like, I think it's really cool. A lot of fun. Like we were talking about earlier, I saw so many fun memes. I was me and Dakota have been sending them back and forth. Mostly me sending them at Dakota.
I love the one of the showing them the classics, and then it's the communion scene with Christopher Walken just like partying with that fucking alien puppets. It's amazing.
One of my favorite was this woman. She's like bringing up like food, and she's like, "We good, right?" Because us, we had not done nothing. Everybody's done stuff to us. It made me laugh so hard.
My big fear is that reptilians are real, and that this is what this is going to be. And then like half of them are just going to take off their skin masks.
Ew!
Like, now we're here to harvest you. Welcome to the world. You could have had it your way.
If it wasn't for those meddling kids.
Oh, now we're going to eat you.
Damn, that would be the worst Scooby-Doo ending ever.
I know that. The Earth, the season finale.
I wasn't expecting that. They really jumped the shark with the alien invasion.
They really went all out and said, you know what? We're going to just end it.
We're just going to blow it up. Oh, man.
But yeah, no. So go watch the hearing if you've got 2.5 hours to spare. If you don't, there's a really fun, like, 5-minute segment on Fox News. I wouldn't necessarily recommend watching Fox News most of the time, but this segment was hilarious and very much summed up the craziness that was the subcommittee hearing on UAPs with Grush, Graves, and Fravor. That's all I got. You got anything else?
That's all I gotta say. I'm ready for what's next. I'm interested to see what happens next.
Yeah, no, this is a big step in UFOlogy and hopefully getting clear information. It's nice that they were like non-government agents that used to be in the government that came forward to be like, yeah, your government's doing what you think they're doing. So we'll see what happens.
Totally.
Next time.
Totally.
Maybe they'll find out some good information behind closed doors. Who knows?
Hell yeah, maybe.
But anyways, if you like what you're hearing, you should follow us. We have a podcast. We have a YouTube channel. You can send us an email at encountersthepodcast@gmail.com. If you've got episode ideas or a spooky story to tell, make sure and hit us up there. Like, follow, and subscribe. And until next time, I'm Dakota.
I'm Amanda.
Stay spooky.